I, Varshini Sriram, from the Department of Instrumentation and Control Engineering, take immense pleasure in welcoming you all today to the alumni webinar on building innovative medical devices for unmet clinical needs and next generation medical devices, organized by the Department of Instrumentation and Control Engineering in association with ISA Student Chapter. St. Joseph's College of Engineering is a NAAC accredited college with 3.46 maximum score and A plus grade. It has an NIRF ranking of 160 out of 1071 applied institutions in India. The college has been running successfully for a total of 27 years and will continue to shine. It has a total of 10 departments. Each department has a lot of great strength students. The Department of Instrumentation and Control Engineering is present since college established in 1994. The department is NBA accredited and 50% of its faculties are doctorate holders. I take immense pleasure in welcoming our chief guest today, our alumni, Mr. Gautham Pasupuleti, CEO and Managing Director at Biodesign Innovation Labs, Bengaluru. Gautham Pasupuleti is the CEO and Managing Director, Chairman of Biodesign Innovation Labs. Biodesign Innovation Lab is a medical device and healthcare company based in Bangalore, supported by Department of Biotechnology, BIRAC, Government of India, Government of Karnataka, Qualcomm, Camtech, Global Health, Mass General Hospital, C-Camp, IKP, IIT Bombay, and Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. Mr. Gautam leads a team of engineers, researchers, doctors, designers, domain experts, and public health professionals as a part of development of innovative and affordable intensive care or critical care medical devices that can save lives for patients with respiratory illness. He was instrumental in successfully translating their company's research and development of intensive care medical devices innovation into a successful commercialization. Biodesign Innovation Labs received Best Campus Startup from IIT Bombay in February 2020, in addition to QDIC Top 10 Startups in India Award. Previously, he was a researcher at MIT Media Lab initiatives in developing ophthalmology devices in collaboration with LVPEI Eye Hospital and publishing their work in AI based technologies for eye care and early cancer detection. During this period of time, he also founded a startup called Corneal X, an AI based eye care setup which is now part of Biodesign Innovation Labs for developing AI based tech for healthcare applications. Mr. Gautam Pasupuleti received many awards such as Forbes India Ultimate 120 Pioneers of Change and Cisco Global Problem Solver Change winner of Pandemic Response Prize of 50,000 US dollars. With that being said, I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir, today for this event and hand over this dais to you. Welcome, sir. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Varshini, for the introduction. Thank you, Dr. Babu, and thank you, Mr. Professor Harish, and other professors who are in the call today for inviting me and for having me. I would like to start the this session with primarily with the focus on medical devices. With I'm sure there are a lot of students and professors who are passionate about research and development and also passionate about making innovations. But when my passion developed started working on medical devices when I started visiting hospitals when I was working in a startup doing internship. And the primary reason why I was so focused on building solutions for medical devices, solving problems and for the clinical needs is because I was able to really understand from a first-hand experience by visiting a lot of these hospitals and getting to know how we could develop solutions that are catering to those needs. So this happened. One of the things was I visited a hospital in Chennai called Vijaya Hospital, where I was looking at a patient being transported from an ambulance to an emergency department, and the patient was, I'm assuming the patient has a cardiac arrest or something. They were trying to provide CPR, and the patient was not responding. So I was looking at how we could, improvise existing standard of care and what are the existing technologies available and how we could think differently and build solutions which are solving, the pressing problems of our country and global health. So that's one of the moment that I had that something we have to do. Not just getting a job or getting into doing being a professor and publishing something, but at the end of the day, it has to solve a problem. It has to have an impact. So that's what made me to build a company and start doing research on existing medical devices and how we can improve quality of care and building solutions which can save lives. So then again, once you start working on a specific idea, you'll have to validate the idea. You'll have to also look at existing ideas which are already there and how you could whether are you making an incremental improvements over the idea or you're inventing something totally new. And you'll also be doing a lot of literature review, which is very important when you're trying to really explore the existing domain. Especially if you're working on medical devices, there are a lot of journals already there, and you'll be looking at critical care, emergency care, and what are the existing state of the art. So we started doing we collaborated with few doctors, and we started our company back in 2017. And I came back from US at the time. I was at US and also started this company to really work on a specific ideas which can impact in the critical care and intensive care. And then we went on to get more traction and build our products and deploy it. 2020 pandemic started, we were manufacturing and supplying to hospitals, and right now we're working with a few governments and also working with various stakeholders in the healthcare system to really alleviate the pain caused by the pandemic. And one of the things about the solution that we've developed was also to save lives and improve quality of care. And it was really an important aspect for us to really develop solutions and understand that there could be multiple applications for this solution, whether is it a post-operative care or it's an emergency care and critical care or transport ventilation. So we worked on developing portable ventilators and respiratory support devices, and also newer technologies in healthcare. One of the things is AI-based solutions, which we are exploring new ways to build our products for the global market as well. So with this, I will share my screen and give you a kind of perspective of what we do and what are the things that, as a student, how you could also look at the biomedical engineering as a career and build solutions and also explore entrepreneurship. If you're a student, you should also look for how you can work on projects, not just for the sake of working projects, but also innovative ideas that you're always curious about, and you're always looking at building something which can solve a problem, and at the same time see how you can get those ideas funded from your universities, either through research grants, government grants, and so on. Yeah. Can
Welcome,
you see my screen?
Dean ma'am, welcome.
Great. So basically, if you look at medical devices are really important in terms of if you have to get any diagnostics done, if you have to get any screening done, or if there is going to be a therapeutic device that is going to provide life support. So medical devices are important aspect for a hospital, for public health, and so on. One of the things that we wanted to do was to build solutions for billions of people for the unmet clinical need, and addresses huge problems in India and globally, which is what we're doing right now. And one of the problems that we focus on is mortality under children 5 due to pneumonia, respiratory illnesses. So we develop solutions, oxygen therapy for children. We work with hospitals doing pediatric clinical trials, bubble CPAP solutions, essentially for, which can reduce the work of breathing. It is all, the studies have also shown that it reduces the mortality rate, and pneumonia is one of the major reasons for mortality children under 5. And we have one of the products that we have developed is a product called respiratory support device, which caters to the pneumonia and hypoxemia for the age group of 5 months 58 months. And One of the things about the oxygen therapy, continuous positive airway pressure, is one of the ways of providing oxygen therapy for children, which can reduce the work of breathing and keeps the lungs inflated. Especially if you look at the seasonal conditions, like during September till January, February, you will have the seasonal pneumonia. Children get affected by it because their immune system is more susceptible and to get infection, and which leads to mortality of patients under 5, mainly because they are not able to afford, or they're not able to get better treatment. And there are very simple treatments. By providing oxygen therapy, you can actually provide saturation for children. And but because the lack of access to healthcare in India and other developing countries and underdeveloped countries, there's a high mortality rate. So we tried to see how we could really make solutions which are frugal, at the same time innovative, cost effective, and can be deployed widely. And so it is also very well thoroughly tested, validated, and certified. So we developed solution in oxygen therapy for pediatrics, which can improve hypoxemia and reduces the ventilation perfusion mismatch, and can save the patient's lives. And so one of the things about developing medical devices is you really have to understand the problem. And we went to hospitals and we found that parents cannot afford treatment of ventilators. There are a lot of patients who we've seen, patients who cannot get a ventilator, and they had to be, they had to be needlessly die because they couldn't ventilators. And all these experiences during our clinical immersion led us to develop the products that we have launched today and also in the market. And so these are some of the aspects of the oxygen therapy, which you can also find in the WHO guidelines, which talks about the different ways of administering oxygen for children under 5. And so one of the things about the providing continuous positive airway pressure. So continuous positive airway pressure is a mode of ventilation, as you could say, it's a respiratory support or a non-invasive oxygen therapy. It is also given for adults. It's also given for children. But for children, there is a specific way of providing for children under 5. Under 5, you have lungs. Children, their lungs, alveoli. There are millions of alveoli. These alveoli needs to get oxygenated once they are breathing. But due to the infection that is caused, the alveoli is having if you look at the saturation, the oxygen has to go to the patient, and so there is an obstruction in the airway, and there is also an obstruction in the alveoli level, and this leads to the arterial blood gas analysis. The arterial blood gas analysis, basically it comes down below 90, and this leads to hypoxemia and hypoxia, which leads to mortality. So by providing continuous positive airway pressure, and especially if you look at the alveoli level, and you're providing positive and expiratory pressure, which can keep the patient's alveoli open. Here in this picture that you see, there is a nasal cannula, and that is connected to one end. It's connected to the oxygen flow meter, where the source of oxygen is provided 5 to 10 liters per minute. And then you have a child who's getting oxygen, oxygenated through this source and the other side is connected to a bottle. So here, what does the bottle do is basically it increases the PEEP. The PEEP is the positive and expiratory pressure. So the end of the exhalation, there is a pressure that is maintained in the lungs, which is important for the patient to reduce the work of breathing and can improve. So the doctors can work on the underlying infection, underlying cause for the spontaneous breathing or for the medical condition of the child. So that's a concept. So the product that we've developed is called RESPAP. So it's essentially for kids under 5. It is better than existing standard low flow oxygen therapy and also high flow oxygen therapy, and can reduce treatment failures. And it is made to be standardized and such that we've done studies, and it is also based on the WHO guideline of bubble CPAP oxygen therapy. And so this is you can use it along with the oxygen blender, or you can also use it with the oxygen concentrator. Especially this is mainly for the children from under 5 months, 58 months. Um, and So one of the other products that we also developed is the pediatric, portable ventilator products that we developed, and it is basically solving the gaps that we have identified in terms of providing ventilation for patients during emergencies, during medical emergencies involving in emergency departments and in the transport ventilation and in the critical care, post-operative care. So it replaces manual ventilation and can stabilize the patient and can keep the patient alive, so they can work on underlying disease and the cause of the medical condition and can treat the patient. So we've also looked at a lot of problems like provide manual ventilation in the low resource hospitals, and which is leading to mortality or morbidity because paramedics has to provide a specific respiratory rate according to the patient's requirement. And this also involves a skilled health worker or a paramedic to operate the ventilation. And the existing standard of care is poor, and it leads to mortality, and we've developed solutions around this. So we have developed a patented medical device called Respirate, and it primarily solves these problems which I was talking about. And it is right now deployed across hospitals in India and saving lives. And it can solve the problem during a shortage of ventilators, sophisticated ventilators, to provide intubated ventilation under general anesthesia, and also in the post-operative care, emergency care, and transport ventilation. So we're deployed in government hospitals and private hospitals. We're working with the government of Karnataka. We're also working with a lot of other international organizations and NGOs and CSR. And we're also open for collaboration and opportunities to really deploy and save lives. And we're also working with the emergency care and ambulances and post-operative care anesthesia department. So now that I've just given a background about what we do and why we do and what are the things that we have been doing so far, and now I wanted to really touch upon some of the things that how you could also participate, how you could also, if you're interested, of course, in medical devices, which is why you are here in this call, in this webinar, how you could also, passionate about some of the technologies that are there, and also really personally affected by some of the things that you've identified or have seen some of the people having affected by certain medical condition, and you wanted to really work on certain solutions which can improve the existing standard of care. And there are two ways to do it. One is you could go through the academic route and do research and publish the research and commercialize it through building the IP over it. Other way to do is, of course, to be an entrepreneur and build everything from scratch and take it to the market and go global. So and again, there are multiple. These are academic and industry routes. So I have chosen the startup and the industry route. And but as far as the taking innovation from an idea to market, it really involves consistent passion and consistent perseverance and patience to really get things going. Because if you take any student projects, these things happen over a period, and then you get a CTS job and TCS jobs, and then these projects don't go anywhere. So it's really important you take these projects, you build these projects into successful commercialization, such that you're able to solve a problem, and you're also able to build your own company, or you're able to build an IP over it, which a big company can get it from you, licensing, and it will be a sustainable revenue model. So one of the things about if you develop solutions, if you are looking to start some new idea, invent some new medical devices products, or build some technologies, so you need to understand that what really is required, some of the best practices that medical device startups and other big companies have done before. So I'll be talking about that. So in India, again, maternal health is one of the top priorities, and yeah, so solutions around that is really important. And to reduce the preventable deaths, we need to build high impact solutions, which otherwise are not solved. And again, if you each city, each country will have unique problems, so you'll have to keep all these in mind and then develop solutions. So best practices for scaling health innovations is you really have to make solutions that are universally acceptable, universally applicable, and in order for the hospitals and the governments and people to really adopt your product, you really have to build the evidence for it in terms of impact. So one of the things, and the only thing that you do is testing, validation, certification, clinical trials. You'll have to publish these, and so on and so forth. So it's an evidence-based thing that you do. Anything that goes through a scientific to a market, it has to get widely accepted. In order for this to get accepted, you'll have to build evidence, and the only way to build evidence is to do clinical trials after you have gone through the whole stage of development process. And design for user, so design with empathy, and design for stakeholders, and collaborate with stakeholders across sectors. So this is one of the examples that I would like to mention. Is this is a product that is developed by Path, which is Ilavi UBT, is a gravity-based system for optimal pressure to stop postpartum bleeding, and again, you have pulse oximeters that provides oxygen saturation level and provides patients information, and these are some of the things that are really important in hospitals for treating patients. So I'll be explaining some of the innovations that I've gone through. And for making medical device more affordable, during COVID-19, there are a lot of things that, the whole, the medical ecosystem and the healthcare industry was learning every day. And, there was a lot of studies that have been done and published, and every day there's a new aspect of things that we were learning. So it's important that you constantly understand the challenges, understand the existing things that are happening, and constantly upgrade yourself with knowledge and able to build solutions for that. And yeah, so COVID is one thing that made us realize that we need to have a universal healthcare. We need to have healthcare accessible and affordable. And only way to do is to really make innovation as the primary key thing for be it from academic or be it for any level. So innovative solutions is really required for scaling it up. And this is one example where you see a prototype where it is providing non-invasive ventilation for patients in low-resource hospitals. And you can see there is a humidification aspect to it, where you set the flow rate and then you're able to heat the gas and this is basically a high flow oxygen therapy. You can set the flow rate up to 60 liters, and then you're able to change the flow rate, and you're able to adjust the humidifier such that the patient is able to get the gas and can get oxygenated. And this is bubble CPAP. I've shown you the other version of ours. And I've also worked on some of the things in the medical ophthalmology side of things, which is related to corneal topography and retinal imaging. And so yeah, there's a lot of products which are there, existing state of arts, which are really big and expensive. We've also tried developing and developed solutions which are portable, mobile-based, which can be used for screening eye diseases and for screening keratoconus and so on. So retinal diseases, there are a lot of studies which has already been done. So we, in collaboration with the L.V. Prasad Hospital and MIT Media Lab, so I was also involved with one of these projects for eye research and AI-based solutions around that. And for process of developing medical devices, so I'll be going. I think I've covered this before, so I'll be going through, in a way that with more examples and how you could also understand how to develop solutions for the unmet clinical need. So for developing a product from idea to building solution to the market, it is really important that you develop a solution which is unique, novel, and that is something that is not available anywhere. So for that, the universities have to provide funding to students to really pursue the research, are the government. So it's really important that you document all the new ideas, you do literature review, and you try to identify the gaps, go to hospitals, meet doctors, or speak with nurses and try to document the existing gaps, existing pain points, and then you're able to design solutions focused around those things that you've identified. It would involve problem identification, need analysis, screening, and then concept generation. And then you, at the end of the development, you would develop something unique. An IP would be created, and then you get patents for it. These patents will help you to further accelerate in getting more funding for pursuing the product commercialization, and eventually you'll be able to license it for big companies, pharma companies, medical medtech companies, or you're able to start your own company to take it to an entrepreneur route in building more such products and going through channel partners and then supplying to hospitals, or taking it to any kind of way that is actually solving a problem and meeting the medical need. So yeah, this is the high level things, and it involves continuous iteration, product development, identification, and implementation. So uh, that's having said that, so the problems that you identify, I think one of the things is that the hospitals, is one aspect. You're doing clinical immersion. If you're developing some technologies, you as an electronics engineer or an instrumentation engineer, you might be passionate about certain aspects. I'm able to work on image processing, or I'm able to work on. I'm really interested in doing certain things like PCB design. So you could really focus on your strengths, and you're able to have more team members or professors who are able to complement you in the other things that is required during the development process. So that's how you're able to successfully develop, because to develop a product, you'll have to have multiple skill sets, a team which is really good. But initially, you'll have to do everything on your own. But once you start getting recognition, or once you start getting initial research funding, you're able to pursue it and take it through the clinical trials and commercialization. So one of the things I will also be talking about is observation and problem identification, and then you develop a need statement around it. So when you look at your the whole, if you take any successful company, so there's always one a specific moment why they do it. They do it because they had their personal experience, or they do it because they have a kind of a strong motivation why they wanted to do it. So that is really important when you're also getting involved into some projects which you're looking in the long term, which you're looking into taking to commercialization. Usually a medical device, it takes at least 4 years to get it to market if you start working on it. And of course, it requires research funding. It requires a lot of continuous funding to take the product from one stage to next stage, because it will require from ideation to concept generation to prototyping to first level prototyping and then testing it, and then it has to meet the compliance, and then going for certifications, and then going for clinical trials. So you should have a whole set of things designed for it. And the mission is basically, if you find certain problems and you have motivated to solve that problem. So that's one way to say it. You have some friend who is suffering from certain medical condition, and you wanted to solve a problem, but you know how to solve it, but it takes a lot of time, effort, money, and you are willing to spend your next 3 to 4 years, in building solutions to solve that problem, and then you're able to license it, or make a company to build more solutions and build products that is solving problems. So that is what this thing is all about. Strengths and weaknesses. Again, you need team members and acceptance criteria. So these are some of the examples that I have mentioned. So it's important that for any product to come out in the market, there's a story behind it, why you do it. So you should know that if you're pursuing a career out of it, why are you doing it? So build that. Try to find that passion. So once passion is once you're passionate about solving something, you're passionate about something, then everything falls into place. So again, I've mentioned about strengths and weaknesses. So you identify what's your strengths and weaknesses. Again, in academic, you are always exposed to a lot of different things. But again, you'll identify what you're really good at and what you're not. So speaking from a point of view of from a product level, you really have to get the best people on board to take your product, your idea to the next stage. So that is why it's really important that you have a good team, and you can only get a good team when you work with like-minded people. So universities should and must have constant workshops and these programs where like-minded people are constantly encouraged to pursue innovation and innovation projects and build solutions for the next global big problems. And yeah, so the acceptance criteria is like basically what you think is the criteria that is required for this innovation. So, and one of the things about the acceptance criteria is really looking at the market size, whether this specific problem is only in a specific area in India or it's globally applicable. So you really have to get the data, and you really need to speak with a lot of people, whether there is a real need for it. So a lot of times what happens is that people are passionate about some solution by just observing it the way it is, and then they don't really look at the real need of it. And then you build, so you take a lot of your time and you build solutions, and you realize that this is a solution which is already there, or this is a solution which is no longer relevant, or this is a solution is just something that is not really needed. So that's why it's really important that you understand the various aspects of it, the various criteria: market size, anticipated market growth, market dynamics, competition, project fit for your mission and capabilities, and potential effect on health outcomes and time required to achieve those. And then resource planning, how do you get it funded? If you don't get it funded, the project will not progress and it's not going to happen. So you need to constantly get the funding which is required for pursuing your projects. In order for that to happen, you'll obviously have to constantly spend a lot of time, and that is what this is all about. And yeah, so if you look at the market in US, in India, so you look at the government spending on how much the government is spending on specific condition, disease, and then you will know whether there's how much of the problem is there, how much of the population level. If you're trying to solve a problem at a population level, and you really have to look at the whole picture as a population level, how much of the existing people are being affected by it, and where there is a problem, there is also an opportunity for it. So you build solutions for that problem and the opportunity to solve the problem. So in this case, you have the prevalence of the diseases across countries, and you can see what are the existing solutions and how are these solving these problems, and how can you make a difference to solve the gaps or the existing unmet clinical need. and which is why you also have to do a lot of research and homework to build solutions from scratch which solves these problems. So this is one example that I can say is one where you find something in India very cost effective. The same can be very super expensive in US, and these are the disparities that we find in the society in terms of accessibility and affordability issues. And so this is one way to look at this. Your product can be affordable, and yeah, so that's one of the things. So there's how you can make products is one is incremental improvements, other is a totally different approach in building different technologies for solving the same problem, but it is more faster, cheaper, and easier to use, and can reduce the time and so on and so forth, inefficiencies. So differentiate between observations and problems and needs. So once you start visiting hospitals, once you start getting immersed and do a even doctors, if you look at medical colleges, before they go and treat on patients, they do observationship for 6 months, and then they get a lot of data, they get a lot of inputs, and their mind is basically tuned to identify these pain points, and they're more designed to work on those things. So that's really important. It applies for product development as well, especially if you're dealing with humans, and you're developing solutions for them. And again, you really have to do the documentation for that, and regulatory aspects to it and compliance to it. So you'll have to think everything into perspective when you're developing, even from the beginning of it. And these are some of the things about how you could build solutions from scratch, and developing solutions for that. I'll quickly look at some of the examples. Yeah. So observation: a medical resident in training struggles to intubate a patient, placing a breathing tube into the patient's trachea in emergency room. So this is a problem, and leading to drop in oxygen saturation levels. So patients who are having underlying medical conditions, and many times patients who are elderly, 70 plus or 60 plus, they are more they could have a lot of these underlying conditions. They could get they could get cardiac arrest or respiratory arrest when these underlying conditions trigger at some point. So you have to intubate them. So uh, intubation requires a trained physician or a paramedic or a respiratory therapist, intensivist to use this device into the patient's trachea and then provide oxygenation. So this is required from the where they actually in the ambulance till they admit the patient in the emergency to the ICUs. So the problems, the example for this problem is the unskilled practitioner, the time required to place an endotracheal tube, breathing tube in an emergency setting, and at least in some cases can be extensive and can be dramatically impact the outcome. So it's so how you could really work on the solutions for that. So, and need can be a way to reduce the time required for unskilled medical practitioner to place endotracheal tube in an emergency setting. So the way you perceive it and the way you design your solutions, it really makes a difference. So that's why it's very important that from a first-hand experience, you need to get these different aspects of it. For example, if you are really interested in working in the if you're really interested working in the diabetes space, you really have to visit some hospitals and really look at how the existing treatment is done, how they are doing the testing, and is it non-invasive, invasive, and so on. And then you'll identify the whole landscape of it. So this is one example where you see how the whole process of guiding, identifying a problem, doing observation, how does the medical care team interact for a heart disease, and what is the hospital protocols. That for each hospital there are standard protocols, and how does these hospitals work on a day-to-day way. So if you're looking to develop a medical device, you have to work with some of the hospitals, get permission, and go through the clinical immersion in order for you to identify the problems and to get a first-hand experience, which will help you to get your need statement and problem statement to develop and design your solutions. So indicators for reducing problems that may lead to clinical needs from a patient's perspective. So you look at there is a pain, and if a procedure is painful, so you seek to uncover what is the problem and prevent, and then you try to reduce with your solution. You're trying to reduce that. So, and again, there's other aspect to it. Anytime a procedure can lead to death, and there is more complications to it. So how your solutions can reduce the risk, the likeliness of that, and again stressful, how you're able to reduce that, and from a provider's perspective, risk, malfunction, and uncertainty. So how your solution can reduce these things. So these are the things that you need to keep in mind when you are designing the solution. So again, for each medical device, there is a specific standards. There is a ISO standards that each standards will say how the device should be and what is the compliance requirements for that. EMI, EMC testing, what kind of it has certifications that it has to go through in order to meet the compliance. So that is why it's really important while developing the product, even from the initial stages, you really need to and have an understanding and also have the data and also have the kind of regulatory aspect to it, the compliance aspect to it, because it has to meet them once it is there in the market. Because it has to go through clinical trials, and it has to also be affordable and easy to use, and it has to be accessible. So again, from a systems perspective, the cost and inefficiencies. The cost has to be less cost, because you really wanted to make something which is widely acceptable and widely applicable, and also widely used, right? So cost, as the cost is priced appropriately, you're able to scale it up. That's the aspect to it. So with this, I'm just going to stop this session. If you have any questions, let me know.
The students can ask a question and get a clarification.
Good evening, Gautham. Hello.
Yes, Dr. Suresh.
Yeah, how are you, Gautham?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good, Gautham. You are doing a lot of research in biolab. Are you using any artificial intelligence technology in your lab?
Yes, we are working on AI-based solutions. Yeah.
So, how the artificial intelligence helps in your making your products?
Okay, one of the products that we are working on is a topographer, which basically diagnoses keratoconus, and we are also working on a few other AI-based solutions for eye examination, which will provide complete eye screening for kids, pediatrics, and it is mainly applicable for children, which does eye examinations. We are looking at the the topography images of the cornea and also some of the retina images, and we will be using AI algorithms like convolution neural networks, which will predict the likelihood for a progressiveness for a disease, so the device will give a likelihood of whether the patient have to be referred, or the patient have to be referred to a higher hospital for treatment, or the patient have to be treated, doesn't have to, there is not intervention that is required. So yeah, So we have worked on AI based solutions for eye care. Yeah, some ophthalmology.
Thank you, Gautam.
Yes. If anybody wants to get any clarification from the expert member.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Gautam sir.
Yes, please go ahead.
Sir. Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Samson, working in Karna University. Sir, we are making student level projects, and students could able to complete their projects in the hardware, and afterwards there is no much progress taking place. We are finding it difficult to make it into product or into bring it to the market. And
Yes.
some good projects are also in complete hardware, and we have taken some clinical trials also. Could you suggest a few ways?
Sure. I think what is required for projects, a lot of these student projects and these projects doesn't go anywhere because people are not committed to it and they're not passionate about it. And once you're committed for the project, you're able to um, look at things in a differently where how you could take it to a company and you could take it to the commercialization, so which involves again for doing clinical trials, again you will require a lot of these ethics approval. Apart from ethics approval, you will also make sure that your device has to meet the certain standards, compliance. So compliance testing and certifications is a very expensive aspect to it. So that's why you need a government funding or you need a university funding to really help the effort for getting these compliance certifications. So as and also you need to make sure that the IP, the invention is actually patented. So as soon as you have a patent, you can actually you'll have a lot of commercialization opportunities in terms of licensing. Uh, so yeah, so there are really two ways to do it. One is through licensing, and you could do it through licensing only if you have a patent. So you really have to get a patent, and you could license to a big company, and then you could get royalties. So that's how that will keep the revenue model going. From an academic point of view, or if it is a small company which is just relying on that particular product. But if you're looking at taking the product to the market by yourself, and it requires a lot of investment, and which is why you'll also have to get a lot of investment for making the product, the inventory for that, and for manufacturing it, for scaling it up, which is a bigger process. That's a whole entrepreneurship about how you do it. Yeah. So basically, you'll have to make sure that the product is very well validated, tested, get the certifications done, do clinical trials, get the clinical trial data published, and also make sure your patent is approved. So as soon as you get the patent approval, you can incorporate a company and then you can take it to the next level, apply for investment for the VC funding and so on. Or you could do work with the industry and license the product, whoever is interested. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. One more question. Could you suggest uh, about some few points on these wearable devices and its market potential? Because we are looking at assistive devices for elderly and old age, and there are so many, problems, and there is also possibility of solutions to make small devices and to complete it in a period of say 1 year. And could you give some suggestion on wearable devices?
Yeah, so there are a lot of wearable devices in the market. Only few are getting widely accepted, and uh, like I said, if your wearable device is something that is already the functionality of it, the something the what is the secret sauce, what is the novelty of it. So just make sure that you are able to get that thing right, and then you're able to pitch it to the potential adapters, hospitals and governments who can take it for the initial pilots. So you really have to do pilots, and you'll have to do the market research by yourself. Market research, I mean, you will have to work with some companies who does the in-depth market research, where they will tell you what is the exact market size for this. But you could also look it online and find a high level information, what is the market size for this. But there is always the competition aspect to it. There is a competition because there are similar products in the market, and you are not able to differentiate it. So it's really about how you are able to differentiate it, and you are able to position it, and how you are able to target the market, target customers. Is it going to be government, or is it going to be B2B2C or B2B, and so on and so forth. So yeah, so I would suggest you to look more into the market aspect of it, and make sure that at least you get some 5 to 10 hospitals use your product before, and then get a feedback from them, get a testimonial, get a kind of a sense of how the product is being used. Be more open about accepting more feedback, and then iterate it. If the product is already certified and everything, then you could just go for clinical trials and get the data, publish the data, and make sure that you have dedicated people for doing this. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamson and Gautham. Anybody wants to get our clarification?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Hi,
please.
sir. I have this doubt. I'm working on this satellite technology currently, and I did this market research that the US market experts has said that this satellite technology is gonna be a hit only post to 2026. In the case of US market, we always have this market gap between the US market and the Indian market, right? So if I'm gonna currently like pursue this technology, uh, will it actually, it's like I have to work on for at least a decade to get into the market, at least on the bottom level. So how could I pursue, like, currently as a student getting out of the college?
So what exactly you do?
I work on this femto satellite technology.
Okay, is it?
Anybody please introduce so that he can able to answer better than now.
Uh, um, I'm currently studying as a final year student, and I also got an offer from ZoomRx. It is a pharma market research company, so I work on market research there. So when I work on those market research, I just dig upon this technology, and I came to know that this femto satellite only gets a hit into the market post 2026. So is it worth like continuing this technology till from now itself, or I could just pause on this technology and continue like after a half a decade?
Yeah, it really, we always postpone things, and nothing goes anywhere once you postpone it. Uh, you just shelf it, and then you're passionate about something else, and then you move on. So I would suggest you to really look at, is this something you're passionate about? Yes, then it fits the criteria, then you can pursue it. And in this case, if the technology is something ahead of time, you really have a good opportunity in presenting a case that you're able to build some technology which is ahead of time, and you're able to make this a patented technology for the use cases, for the applications that you have intended to it, the utility of it, the design of it. So it really takes at least a decade to make something in and some, if you want to do anything, it'll take at least 10 years. So you really have to work at least for 10 years to get something anywhere. Then your technology, the inventions that you develop, can be accepted globally. So continue working on it, and keep looking at the you'll have to constantly uh, uh, do the certain hypothesis, you'll have to test it. You'll have to speak with a lot of target audiences, target users, and also speak with the existing stakeholders who are relevant for the market. Then gather as much as data, and then keep applying for research funding, which will help you to take forward your project. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Any other wants any clarification? Notes and all? Gautam, I want a small obligation. Like, yeah, could you able to give some what internship or some project handling session for our students for doing current final year project like that in your concern?
Yes, yes, definitely. We are always hiring new people for internship from electronics, biomedical engineering, regulatory, and mechanical engineering. So we would definitely be happy to, have, yeah.
So please, we can have some interaction for the technical.
And also, one of the things I wanted to also,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Gautam.
is that the we'll have to build a whole entrepreneurship spirit in students from the early first year to really pursue the pursue innovations, which is solving the global problems. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Gautam. Actually, we want to build some rapport with some of the entrepreneurship entrepreneurs from the department. Now only we could be able to identify some three persons like you. So definitely we will develop the interaction with our own alumni entrepreneurs. Please always keep in touch with the department, and so that our students will get the benefit, and we can contribute to the country in a positive manner. Thank you, Gautam.
Thank you, Dr. Bowman. Yeah.
Thank you, Gautam. I am Dean, St. Joseph's College of Engineering. We are very proud of you. Okay, very thankful to you for coming and doing this session for your juniors.
Thank you very much, Dr. Parvati ma'am. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, Ananda Krishnan. Ananda Krishnan.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Would you be able to give the vote of thanks now?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Thank you.
On behalf of Instrumentation Control Engineering Department, I would like to thank our alumni for giving a nice session, and I would like to thank our HOD, Dr. Babu Manoharan, and Dean for supporting us. Thank you.
Okay, Ananda Krishnan. So thank you, Gautam. Thank you, madam. So on behalf of the St. Joseph College of Engineering, I am grateful to you for giving the wonderful session to us. Definitely, we can have the cordial relationship to continue the students' progress. So please cooperate. Please have the contact with us so that our students' community will be benefited. So on behalf of the St. Joseph College of Engineering, I am thankful. On behalf of our chairman, sir, Dr. B. Babu Managaran, sir, and our managing director, J.C. Priya ma'am, and director, Shashi Shekhar, sir, and principal, Vati Sesagiri Rao, sir, and our dean ma'am, Dr. B. Parvatini ma'am. With all their guidance, we continuously organizing the webinar for the benefit of our students. So I hopefully it is useful for our students and the members who have joined here. On behalf of Instrumentation and Control Engineering Department. I'm thanking the Gautham. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Gautham. Okay. Samsung. Samson.
Yes sir, yes sir. Good evening.
எப்படி இருக்கீங்க? நல்லா இருக்கீங்களா?
Fine,
So,
fine.
today
Thank you. Actually, it's a very good seminar
mm,
interaction. I am really benefited.
hey, I didn't
Yeah, I think.
expect. Actually, I didn't find you the JS and yes, I could not be able to identify who is this. So
Okay, okay,
after
okay.
Sangar and you joined, I'm so happy.
Okay, okay, okay. I'm just a silent communicator.
Oh, what is it?
Yeah.
What is it? See,
Okay.
sometime they will start um, ignite a certain idea. So that is the way we can start the session.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
we
Okay,
can have
okay.
separately the chart.
Yeah,
Okay,
actually, I didn't expect. I mean, Mr. Gautam is to be your alumni. Okay.
oh,
Okay, okay.
do you know him?
And, because I thought he is being a CEO of Innovation Lab. I am searching for few contact members to reach him, and I couldn't find any contacts. Okay, suddenly came to know your poster. I'm really
Yes, sir.
surprised and very happy to.
சொல்லுங்க
I
ஹரிஷ்.
mean, just attend this.
பண்ணிட்டேன். ஹலோ, சொல்லுங்க. ஓகே.